Welcome to the Marketing Remix, presented by Red Door Interactive. I'm Reed Carr, CEO of Red Door Interactive. Our show is a senior-level marketer's resource for navigating our ever-evolving landscape. In each episode, in about 20 minutes, experts from different marketing disciplines representing different buyer touchpoints tackle one important marketing topic. Then, what do you need to know, and how does it affect the buyer? All right, welcome to this episode on What the Fuck is Enterprise SEO. On the surface, Enterprise SEO isn't all that different from your everyday SEO campaign. You need to create compelling content, earn quality links, perform keyword research, and integrate your campaign alongside complementary marketing channels. However, when it comes to SEO campaigns for larger, more complex organizations, things can get tricky. In this episode, we'll break down the differences between big or enterprise SEO and small, traditional SEO, the marketing agency's role, and more. So for this episode, we have joining us Ross Briggs, who's our manager of SEO, and Monique Pouget, our producer. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, first, so the key differences that we're talking about here, again, it's enterprise SEO, typical SEO. What would you guys say are the fundamental differences between those two?
Yeah, I think even at a very basic level, one thing that sticks out to me as being a big difference is what does success look like and how do we measure success? With a small site or a brand that's not very well known, if traffic's up, we know we're doing our job right. If traffic's down, we know something's wrong, right? But on an enterprise level, where the brand is pretty well known, there can be a shift in branded queries to the site that can be driven by other marketing channels, offline promotional activities, a newsworthy event that happens. So it's not as simple as just looking at total organic traffic and determining we're winning or we're losing. We have to sift through those numbers and determine what caused this change, which pages appreciated, depreciated, which keywords in relation to those pages drove that success or that decline in traffic. So even at that basic level, trying to weed through the noise to find the signal in terms of success in organic search takes a little bit of analysis and digging, and each month it's something we explore with our enterprise level clients.
So the gist is it's a lot more complicated, a lot more moving parts.
Certainly can be.
So with that, speaking to somebody who's understands moving parts, producer. So making sure things are happening on time, on budget, a lot of stuff complicated here. Monique, what's the differences to you?
Yeah, I think that Ross said a lot of good points, but one thing I like to think about it is in terms of the complexity of the site. So you're usually dealing with just a lot bigger, a more complex site. There's a lot of more things that could go wrong. You have to monitor it from a health perspective. I think you're usually dealing with a lot bigger of an organization as well. So there might be a lot more stakeholders that you have to navigate through to get your SEO recommendations implemented, and the search engine's results pages where the results are just a lot more complicated. So I think you really need an expert and some enterprise level tools in order to understand what's going on there and be able to distill that down into information.
Yeah.
Example.
So, speaking of the technical component, you're talking about tools, you're talking about the site itself. Ross, talk about some of those things. I mean, I think about keywords. You're sitting there and you're this, VP marketing, CMO, something like that of a big company. What are things they should be listening to go, oh, maybe I'm enterprise and not just, everyday garden variety SEO?
Sure. So, and a lot of times in SEO, we say that we try to speak, especially SEO language, but also CEO language. And so relaying...
So small words, very slow.
Understanding what are they going to care about. So they don't necessarily care about just traffic to a page or a keyword ranking for a random term. What's the final business impact going to be? And can we connect that visitor who came in through that search term to driving success for the business, whether that be through a direct sale or just brand awareness or an audience on the site that's going to drive ad revenue or something like that for a publisher. So I think from a CEO's perspective, what they can start to look at to determine whether they fall into the category of enterprise or the general SEO bucket, it's just really the complexity of operations and whether traffic is always 100% translating to that business impact, or whether they have to dig a little bit deeper to find that connection and the strategy that's going to get them to that business impact.
Right. So are there tools and technologies that are different from one place to another?
There certainly are. One thing that's exciting for us is the integration of machine learning into our SEO process.
Hashtag buzzword.
Hashtag buzzword. Buzzword. And one way we're doing that is with a new innovative tool called Market Brew, which we're partnering with. And that's sort of taking Google's RankBrain algorithm and flipping it head over heels to determine RankBrain is essentially adjusting algorithmic weighting factors on the fly for a given query. So it's saying that for a funny cat videos, that maybe content is more important than trustworthiness or authority. But for a financial services transaction, trustworthiness might be the most important factor. So it's adjusting those ranking factors based on the user intent.
Right.
And something like Market Brew it can be an expensive investment for a company, but at that enterprise level, it's somewhere where you can really get that value out of a tool like that, because some of the keywords you can rank for are driving thousands of visits per month, and that's translating directly into revenue for the company.
Yeah, that was one of the more interesting things I had heard kind of sitting through some of our presentations with clients that you had talked about, was related to kind of how Google presents some of this data based on those parameters that are pretty nuanced now. It's not just this one has a better technical page audit, therefore, or done better from a technical standpoint, so it ranks higher. It takes into consideration context and some of those things. So that's amazing to me.
Yeah, driving very close, and they're trying to get as close to that search intent as possible. So they know users coming in through one query are looking to purchase something, and they're looking for a page that's laid out as an e-commerce grid, or with a variety of products on it, and not simply just the words on the page or the links to the page.
So, Monique, with your background in SEO as it relates to being a producer, you understand this kind of idea of intent in order to gather the assets we need to satisfy the content that we need and the assets that we need to satisfy the intent-based search component. What sort of things on an enterprise SEO level do you need to deliver to the team that's executing on these deliverables that's different as it relates to this?
Yeah. Well, I think what we would first determine is the intent of this page the right intent or the wrong intent? Maybe there's a different intent for this page. So I think that's something the SEO team would identify as an opportunity. Maybe we need to shift the intent for this page. And so from there, we'd work with our client to collect the assets needed to give feedback on that page. Usually for us, it looks like a copy deck where from there we can pull in our SEO experts and have them give feedback on adjustments that they can make to the page that adjust the intent.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about maybe, and expand on this, is what does an SEO team for this look like? What kind of people, because it's not just a technical SEO person. What more do you need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the best part about Red Door is that we have different SEO experts that specialize in different things. So there are certain people that are really technical and love to go on a really big deep dive and investigate a super fun technical issue that is giving everyone lots of headaches. And then there are some people that are more on the earn side of things, where they're focused on content optimization and audience research and what's really happening with the voice of the consumer. So I think all different kinds of SEO experts that we can work with, and depending on what type of the project it is, we can just line it up with that person that has that expertise.
Yeah. So chasing down these search challenges, I'm sure, Ross, is one of the funner things that you get to do. What's one of the hardest ones you've been tackling lately? Yeah.
So thinking about, I think, enterprise level SEO specifically, one challenge that we always run into and always need to find a plan to sort of deal with or mitigate is just the ideation of a great SEO idea. This is going to work great for search engines. It's going to drive a lot of traffic. But then trying to make that work with the brand's requirements, right? So whether that be brand voice constraints, like we can put this out there, we're going to capture a lot of traffic, but it's just not on brand for us, and that becomes very important. A legal constraint. We can't make this promissory statement, even though it would be great for organic traffic. So how can we adapt it into a way that doesn't put us in legal jeopardy, but we can still capture that traffic is an ongoing challenge. and then just trying to make something work with their existing enterprise systems. So a good example of that is one issue we ran into recently with a client whose website is currently not mobile friendly is we rolled out some through Unbounce, some landing pages that could rank for mobile queries, and it worked really, really well. But the issue was that on the data processing side, on the other side, when they were receiving those leads, it wasn't integrating within their system that handles that, the Salesforce system. And therefore, it was a lot of manual work to process those leads. So it can be the most successful SEO tactic in the world, but if it doesn't work for that specific organization, it's not going to be a success. And that's a big challenge from the enterprise side of things.
Well, then you were talking about that, then laddering it back up to the CEO and CMO and people like that. I mean, what you're trying to illustrate there is then the connection to brand and brand voice, the measurable outcomes that the company wants, and then obviously what Google wants and searchers want and things like that. So living in between all of that. So, then that segues a little bit into then the internal, external types that you can pursue in terms of an internal SEO team, an agency team, because we're trying to protect a bunch of different things as it relates to the brand and to the client. Maybe talk a little bit about the differences between maybe an in-house team and what that might look like and what their priorities may be versus maybe an agency, and why, what are the trends or what are people considering as far as those two buckets?
Yeah, I think our approach going into engagements with clients is really to take a look at what their internal team looks like. What resources do you guys have at your disposal? What's already accounted for? And then what are the gaps that we might be able to fill in on our team? So we really try to act as sort of an extension of our client's SEO team, and where they have needs for extra capabilities, whether on the strategic or production side, we then attempt to fill in those gaps to make everything kind of come together.
Yeah, I would imagine that you are looking at skills gap and capabilities. But again, coming back to that earlier comment about brand and brand voice. I mean, they're probably a highly technical type product or company or something like that. They have somebody in house that's writing this stuff. So supplementing that, I would imagine, would be a particular use.
Sure, there's a lot of back and forth that goes there, and there's for SEO, we may want to have the keyword in every single headline or in every single paragraph, and that's probably an exaggeration of what we really need. But then from the brand side, we still need something that's going to resonate with customers and give a positive impression of the brand. So we are always advocating for the SEO elements of things, but at the same time being realistic and understanding that there is an effect that takes place beyond just the keyword rankings and the original click.
Absolutely. So, as that extension of a team, I mean, the other part of it too is staying ahead of things. So industry landscape, trends, topics. What are some things, or what do we do to make sure we're doing that as well as then as how do you translate that into action for clients?
Yeah, I think that's one of the areas where I think an agency can be really valuable, because we're not just looking at one industry and understanding the SEO implications that are happening there, but seeing an SEO, whether it's an algorithmic change, we can see how that's affecting multiple different industries and clients, and then understand really what is the intent of Google making this change. Are they looking for something? Are they looking for better content, higher quality content? Are they looking for more authority? And having that sort of 10,000-foot view across multiple industries really helps to paint that picture, and we can then relay those insights back to our client.
And I also think, and sometimes in enterprise organizations, that there's just so much going on, and they might be heads down and focused on what the internal business priorities are, and they're maybe not thinking of industry trends like voice search or like GDPR news or things like that, where algorithm updates, where no one really wants to be worried about that kind of stuff, right? So, but the SEO team is always on top of that kind of stuff, reading blogs, attending conferences, just always staying up to date on industry news. And so it just kind of gives you that perspective, and having someone that's got your back, even if you're focused on something else.
Even on the conferences front, there's a lot of our clients, there's industry specific conferences, and they prepare a lot for those. And that's a big part of their year for many of our clients. But for us, our big exciting conferences are SEO specific stuff. And so if we're able to sort of attend those on our client's behalf and then bring some of that information back, I think that's a way that we can be hyper-focused on one element and then help them see how that relates to their business.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like at the end of the day, it's a partnership no matter what, depending on how deep they are in search or if they're not at all. There's the way to balance that partnership. So how are we then on an ongoing basis, knowing that things change so fast? What do we do in terms of proactive communication? How do we kind of maintain that feedback loop?
Yeah, well, I think it really starts with planning, the foundation of everything. Like we'll look at quarterly plans and annual plans and even something like a MOST framework where we're looking ahead to 5 years. And so we're able to really align on those types of goals that are important to our clients and then constantly reprioritizing as needed, right? And so I think we use a ton of communication tools to do that, but I really think it starts with the planning, then putting the timelines and communication tools into place, frequent status updates, and then something I think that's also really important is just repeatable processes. So doing something that can be applied to a large organization. We're not just looking at a couple pages and optimizing for SEO best practices. We're looking at hundreds of pages, their site section. So having checklists that you can, distribute in the organization so they can review it.
Brings a tear to my eye. Repeatable processes, checklists. I love this stuff. This is how things get done. Oh, because, at the end of the day, all these great ideas and all this research, all this stuff has to get done somehow. And the interesting thing, too, is it's not just about getting that one thing done, but you have so many things going on at any one time, right? So, how do you ensure enterprise SEO projects stay on track amidst competing or concurrent projects?
Yeah, I would say that, we're at the front of the project, we always establish a timeline, and we know that might shift as timelines often do. But the more that we're, upfront about the deliverable dates and when we're planning to do stuff, when we need client feedback, I think that helps keep projects on track from the very beginning. Then we use collaboration tools like Workfront or Jira to actually communicate with our client and internal teams to keep projects going, status sheets to make sure that we're chipping away. Sometimes it takes a lot of buy-in and time to get things done in a larger organization. So, and then reporting is a good thing that you mentioned too, just evaluating what's working and changing priority and shifting our strategy again.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys joining us on this one. I mean, it's just... the flavors of SEO out there. People say SEO is not just SEO, and it's not just technical SEO. It's not just content. So many things are always moving and shaking. So, hopefully our listeners got a good sense of the differences between enterprise and garden variety SEO. I want to leave something for our listeners before we totally wrap up, is just with all of these changes as it relates to enterprise, what's one thing you're super excited about right now in the industry? Ross, throw something out at me.
Yeah, I think for us right now is the evolution of voice search and content being integrated into personal assistants, especially. So Google Assistant is there. That's hugely where they're investing this year. Same thing with Apple. Same thing with lots of other tech companies right now. And so trying to understand how content is going to be taken from web search that it occurs currently on a desktop or mobile device and is very text-based, to not just a result that's read back to you, but is then integrated into a natural conversation. Right. So exploring ways that we can help get some of that content indexed into voice search and through personal assistants is something that we're really excited about and working with a lot of clients on.
Yeah, I mean, that's changing by the day. I mean, with the announcements of effectively having a conversation with a voice assistant that seems fairly natural, but at some point it's got to read content that's sending it back to you. So, we want to be in the forefront of that. And I know certainly the big clients that we have out there need to be in front of that stuff fast. Monique, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was trying to think about the most relevant thing from a project management perspective. Right. And we're starting this new initiative, I feel like, internally where we talk about, I already said the MOST framework, but I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
Because that's our opportunity to think long-term with our clients.
Can you say what that is real quick?
Yeah, so this is something that Justin internally I'm not sure if it's actually proprietary or if it's like an industry-wide term,
That's
to
okay.
be honest.
But core value share. Let's
yes,
put it
okay.
out there.
MOST, M-O-S-T-T. I do not know what that acronym stands for.
Mission, objectives, strategies, tactics, and targets.
Oh, thanks for having my back.
There you go.
So that's our opportunity to really align with our clients on what the long-term plan is, so that we can put a lot of that foundation in place and really think strategically about, a long-term relationship versus just, at the next quarter or the next year. And so I think that's exciting because we're able to align our strategy with that. It's not just SEO. SEO shouldn't just be one thing. It should be integrated into everything that we do. And I think when we have those priorities and they're clear for us, it's much easier to align our strategy with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, people keep in this world, and certainly I think in digital for the last, we've been in it for a while, almost 20 years. It's been react, an algorithm change, and do this thing, and this other thing's happening. And now this is a mechanism by which we're hopefully trying to get ahead of it. And then back to Ross's earlier point of aligning with the CEO and the business objectives, because ultimately where do we want to go is not a day-by-day, quarter-by-quarter discussion. Those have to ladder up to something. And so I'm really stoked to hear about that, because at the end of the day, we have to have somewhere we want to go. Then we have these visions and ideas, and we do adapt to a changing environment. Then we also have to have the support to get stuff done. So again, thanks for joining us, guys. Really excited about this topic as always. For those of you listening, thanks for joining us. There are some show notes on this, as we always do. So go back to reddoor.biz/learn to get the show notes on what we just talked about. Thanks again, guys. Ross, Monique, and we'll catch you all next time.